You're listening to Greek Speak on WSYC 88.7 FM from Shippensburg, Pennsylvania for engaging conversations about all things Greek life. Hello, everybody. I'm Luke Rainey, and welcome back to another episode another edition of our show. Joining alongside me is Andrew Mercier, and this week we've brought in another guest into the studio. This time it is Michael Burrows, the Grand Scribe for the Kappa Sigma fraternity here at Shippensburg University. So, Michael, first off, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Rainey. Nice to be here.
Yep, glad to have you. So I always open up every conversation that we do whenever we bring in any guests. It's a pretty simple one. Why did you pursue Greek life in the first place, and then why did you end up joining Kappa Sigma?
I got into Greek life because I wanted to get involved on campus. There's not much to do around here, so I was just going out with Drew over here. We came in together, and basically I just wanted someone or people to enjoy college with, that I can enjoy with for years to come after college as well. And we chose Kappa Sigma because all of the guys were basically similar to me. They were all very friendly. They all wanted to meet me and wanted to be friends with me compared to some of the others. The other ones are all great, but Kappa Sigma had that little edge. I like their leadership opportunities, and that's why I pursued to become the Grand Scribe and hopefully become the Grand Master. Probably the biggest thing is their community service that they like to do. I came out of high school with over 1,000 community service hours, and hearing that we are very involved in the community really stood out to me as well.
So I do want to ask, just for audience purposes, could you kind of explain what Grand Scribe is, and then also what Grand Master is, just on I want to dummy down just a regular perspective title.
So the Grand Scribe is our secretary, so we take a lot of notes at our meetings. We write stuff down. We get involved in the Instagram, and we also do a lot of the intramurals. The extra stuff is getting involved with the alumni, getting them updates, inviting them to certain stuff that they can come to, and obviously the community service part of it. It balances it out. Some weeks we have more stuff with other stuff. Some weeks we have more involvement with the other half. So it just depends. And then the Grand Master is our president. He runs the show, basically.
Yeah. So just kind of talk about so when did you get elected Grand Scribe, and kind of how's your experience been so far? We talked to Luke about this, just kind of as someone that went to the conference, kind of touch on the conference and maybe what it was and what you learned from it. Overall, just kind of talk about your experience so far.
Yeah, so I was elected Grand Scribe at the end of last year in April, and right away we started working, and it's been great. I've done a lot. We've worked together extremely well, and we basically take our ideas and we don't just have one voice, we have five, which is great. There's sometimes I forget stuff, there's sometimes other people forget stuff, and we're just there to back each other up. The conference, it was great. I thought it was a great experience. We learned a lot from other chapters and what they're doing compared to us, and it really showed how well we are doing, and there's a little bit of stuff that we could help on, getting more involved.
Yeah. So, do you want to touch on homecoming? Last week I just had Mike Rainey and Devin Yoakum from Pi Lam in here, and they were talking about the importance of homecoming and how excited they were to have their alumni come back. You obviously touched on under the Grand Scribe alumni relations, kind of communicating with the alumni. So kind of if you want to just give an insight of what was the Kappa Sigma homecoming like?
Yeah, I thought our homecoming was a huge success. I did a lot of traveling right beforehand, but I was able to get a bunch of information out needed for the alumni. I was there to set up. We had some come early, and then we had some guys stay back for when they got there, which helped us become more, connected with them off the bat, and not just, stand around and wait for us to come over. I was on the grill half the time, but a few of them came over to me and were talking to me, and they want to be involved as much as they can, and I think they enjoy donating, hanging out with us, and just hearing what we've done to the fraternity compared to when they were in.
Right, yeah, homecoming was a great weekend, and like being honest, that was the first homecoming where I was able to take part in it as well. That's not necessarily true. It was my second homecoming where I was with an organization, but it was my first time where I was with Kappa Sigma, and I wasn't sure what exactly to expect during the day, but at least made myself at home by taking pictures and using one of our brothers, Alex, has a high quality camera, so we were able to use that for the entire day. So I really enjoyed that experience. Up until about 1:45 p.m. that afternoon. But I'll explain those details a little bit later in the conversation. But I want to circle back to something you mentioned earlier when you're kind of giving your background about why you joined Kappa Sigma. So you said you did over 1,000 hours of community service in high school. What was that about? Like, what all did you do there?
The biggest thing was the local fire department around in town. There was a junior program, and I started doing that. After my first year, I decided to run for our lieutenant, which is basically like the second in command, and then I decided to run for captain my last 2 years. So I did a lot of involvement with there, especially with the community, learning all the fire stuff and doing a bunch of other stuff with the community. And then as well, I did, our county had an outdoor school where 7th graders went to this camp for a week without their phones and were able to learn about the outdoors and do a bunch of stuff there. So I went as a 7th grader, and then I also went back as a counselor 3 separate times. I got a lot of hours from that, and it really just enhanced my experience with a bunch of other stuff.
Well, so regarding the fire company service, I mean, I'm involved at my local fire company back home. I've been a social member with them since I was in 9th grade, so that's something 5 years and ongoing. Obviously, being here at Shippensburg and in my hometown being 2 hours away, my involvement there is not nearly as much as it used to be just because of logistics. But when you joined the fire service, at least for when you're a part of it in any capacity, for me it was definitely a family-oriented purpose. My dad is actively the fire chief of that fire company. My great-grandfather was one of the charter members of it in 1951. How did you get involved in that service, and what did it mean to you personally to be a part of it?
It all started on a national night out. My sister was also a junior before me. She's 3 years older than me. And we were over there, and my mom and I got in the car to leave, and then I mentioned something, and she turned the car around, and we went to go talk to the junior stand, and then that's how I started getting involved. And then my sister and I were in the program together for about a year, and then she was too old to continue, and then I continued. And then now that we're still involved, my mom took over as the head admin, and so when I go home, I can still help out as much as I can.
Well, that's awesome. And National Night Out, that's referring to, it's like an August event, yeah, where it's like local law enforcement, emergency services. It's a very good community engagement project across the country. I think that's a tradition that's about 40 years in the making. But yeah, so having your sister involved in that too would have obviously been a huge boost. But I mean, surely you had some experiences fighting the fires, responding to emergency settings, things like that. How did you juggle that with high school and then everything else you would have had going on?
Yeah, so the age range was 12 to 16. The good thing is that we only met every other Wednesday, so it was basically the first and third Wednesday of each month. And then when there were certain events, like we had breakfasts throughout the entire fire hall on holidays, and then we had a competition day with all the other junior fire departments. So it wasn't a lot to juggle. It was only a few hours a month to juggle over there.
Right, and that's something that I think, well, that speaks to any organization as well, because even with our fraternity in Kappa Sigma, having a little bit of a low commitment starting off is very important. And I think we take pride in doing that for our new members as we're going through a new member education process. Obviously, it's rigorous. We expect them to know the content that's important and germane to our chapter, but we also know that they're transitioning into something that a lot of them might not be sure what exactly it is and what exactly their place in it is. So whenever, like, I remember being a new member, and I remember having the opportunity for things to be extremely flexible because I had a very complicated schedule, and the same was true for a lot of other people in that new member class. So like you said, for your organization where they make it a low commitment effort, but as you're still doing things on this, again, low maintenance time span where it's, like you said, only a few hours here and there, and then, like I said, for our new member education, it's not all that rigorous when it comes to the time commitment. I think it's extremely important for getting people to be comfortable in their organization. Do you think that's true?
Yes, I would say.
Yeah, definitely. But continuing on the conversation, so back to homecoming. So what happened in the afternoon, just to kind of tell the story about what just went on. So we've previously discussed on the show about my broken finger from the spring and how I had to rehab it and all sorts of other things that went on. But we had our dunk tank, right? So this has been a fundraiser we've been holding on continuously for years on end. So I was in the dunk tank at one point, but unfortunately, one of the times whenever I got dunked, I kind of bent my foot awkwardly to the point where it landed on one of my toes. And now I'm sitting in this booth with a bit of a Velcro strap around my toe because it would, if you can imagine, on your left hand you have your pointer finger, so it's the second toe in. That toe broke. It's a very insignificant break, so it's only for about 4 weeks. But now, just to kind of update everybody, I am 2 for 20 on broken extremities. So yeah, Saturday was a very interesting day for me. So I didn't really get to enjoy the rest of the afternoon, but some of the new members were able to get into the dunk tank. After I was out of commission, I went back to my apartment just to kind of take care of my situation for a bit, and then the day after, I was able to get checked out. So how did the rest of the afternoon go then? How did you assess the new members getting involved with the dunk tank?
Yeah, the dunk tank was very successful. We don't make anyone do anything that they don't want to do.
Right.
So they all volunteered. They all were excited to be in there. It's a fun experience. It's a once-in-a-lifetime experience that you're only going to experience here.
Yeah.
Because not many people do dunk tanks like that, anywhere else. So I think they were all excited. They were all, nervous to get in there because it was cold, but it was refreshing at the end, and I think they all enjoyed it.
Yeah. Well, that's what makes our tailgate special, is having having something extra. Because all these other organizations, obviously, it's the same thing where you prepare food, things like that. It's a good social opportunity for everybody to get together. But for us, we have a fundraising initiative with that dunk tank, and I think all the credit goes to Luke Hilligus for sure, our treasurer, as well as everybody else who's underneath him. And Luke has given credit to those guys before on this show. Before we've had Luke in the studio, but it has been truly a fun experience there. Obviously, again, minding my injury, but yeah, it was great that we had that something extra for people to do and engage with. And we had a lot of traffic and interest, at our tailgate from outsiders, throughout the entire morning and afternoon. So, yeah, homecoming was a very successful opportunity, but it was a very successful event for us, and especially you feed that into the story of going into the parade immediately before that, and then right into the tailgate. It certainly made for a long day, but it's worth it because we obviously owe that to our alumni to give them something special and to be a part of the campus tradition. But yeah, Michael, I mean, again, it's good to be talking to you about this for sure, and all the other things we have going on at the chapter. But I want to speak a little bit about the alumni relations aspect. So we have an alumni relations chair. So talk a little bit about what that position involves and who that is and what he's doing.
Yeah, so our alumni relations chair is Theo Kappa. He was my RA last year, and his email that he sent, so we had a little bit of a delay. We were not able to get it out in time, but we got it out a little bit later. He wrote a great email, well structured. I got a lot of compliments in return from the email and how it was laid out. It was very interactive. I had some people replying to the email for me, and I think Theo does a beautiful job, especially because all the involvement we've done so far, especially with our diversity dinners. Those have been a big thing on there. And then coming soon, our hockey team at Shippensburg, we have 3 guys who are officers, and they travel all around Pennsylvania, even DC, and our alumni who live out there, if they would love to come, we put that information out there so they have a chance to go watch.
Yeah, I mean, Luke did just emphasize how important it is. The alumni are the reason why we're here. I mean, they laid the groundwork for what we have today. I mean, obviously, our chapter is right now, honestly, at one of its biggest highs. But, I mean, that's only possible because of the alumni who made that possible from their hard work and dedication. But, what has been, the best thing that you've ever learned from, an alumni? Have you learned any, life tricks or, any types of tips or anything like that?
I've gotten a lot of information from alumni, and it's hard to, remember a lot of it. But just making sure that you keep on top of your grades, but at the same time that you're doing the most with, everything else that you're doing. Don't just worry about school, and just, have the will to want to work and basically just having that mindset.
Yeah. Well, I do want to mention, you just talked about grades. So I want to ask, what classes are you in this semester? And, like, what would you say is your favorite class, and what would you say is your least favorite class?
Yeah, so I'm an exercise science major, hoping to go into athletic training, then eventually become a physician assistant. So I got a lot of classes to take. Right now I'm in prevention and care of athletic injuries, group exercise techniques and leadership, exercise physiology 1, and psychology of physical activity. I would say my hardest class is probably the psychology of physical activity. It's not my strongest subject with psychology, but I'm doing pretty well in that as well. It's just a lot of writing and a lot of, the psychological aspect. And then my easiest class is probably my group exercise techniques and leadership. We do a lot of group work. We do a lot of the exercise stuff, which I've been involved with already, working out at the gym for the last few years. So that class is pretty easy, which helps me focus on all of my other classes.
Yeah. So, obviously, you're a junior here at the university. We've been roommates. We've been friends probably since the beginning of time. But, so obviously we've taken a few classes together, just kind of like gen eds or something like that. But over your time at SHIP, I mean, I did just ask, like, what's your favorite classes this semester? I'll ask the same question, but I'll ask for all of them. What would you say has been your favorite class that you've taken at the university, and why?
Oh, that's a lot of classes there. I'm like 75% done with college, according to my degree audit, even though I'm just starting my junior year. But probably my most interactive and favorite class is probably either movement science and skill analysis or motor behavior, both with Dr. Meyer. Shout out Dr. Meyer, we love you. But a lot of the class is learning, and a lot of the class is also doing labs and getting out and, exploring more than just what's in the classroom.
Yeah, I mean, I took movement science and analytics with Michael. Yeah, again, shout out Dr. Meyer. But those exams were hard, man. I mean, the class was cool. I liked the subject, but exams were hard. But, like, what would you say is, like, your main motivation to, like, keep working hard? I mean, obviously you just talked about, like, what you want to do after college. What is your main motivation to keep you wanting to work hard in the classroom and, trying to get the best grades possible?
What keeps me motivated, obviously the big thing is money. So going to a major that I'm going to make enough money to be comfortable. And then going forward from there, I want to be able to do something that I enjoy doing, which is obviously in the medical field or somewhat around it. So if I feel like if I didn't do this major that was, slightly harder, then eventually I wouldn't really enjoy my job, and that's what I'm going for. It's mostly enjoyment and then making enough money to be comfortable.
So, obviously we've talked about the fire department, and now we're talking about this. You're a leader in this chapter now, and obviously you want to propel into a new position. Why? Like, why you? Like, I mean, obviously it takes tremendous leadership to be the secretary, and it also takes tremendous leadership to be the chief of the junior firefighters. But why are you trying to move up? Why you?
Yeah. So for the most of my time, I've enjoyed being that leader. Taking a little bit of charge. It might get annoying sometimes, but I do like taking that charge and just making sure people are doing everything correctly and what they're supposed to do and succeeding. It was brought to my attention by our old president, Brandon Akers, and he really saw something in me about being our next president. And once he told me that, I got a little bit more motivation in wanting to extend my campaign and keep going towards becoming the next president. I think a lot of people look up to me. A lot of people know me and what I do. So I think being the social guy and also a responsible guy who is on top of things, is very organized, would be the next great leader.
Yeah, it's excellent to hear that, and it's good that, like, that initiative to be able to go up to the next rank, because that's kind of natural progression in our fraternity. You start, like, if you come in as a freshman or even the third semester, like sophomore, the idea is that you get initiated. That first year you're initiated, you're kind of doing a chair position, proving that you yourself can be a leader. If you desire to go into a higher chain of command, then at that point you're in executive leadership, junior year or so, and then senior year, it's typically a 1 year and done for whoever the president is. That's at least the trajectory I've seen so far being in it, and that's kind of what it looks to be like. That's going to be the way that things are shaking out here, coming up with whomever is our president next. But
yeah, so in the past we've had a lot of presidents start out as the Grand Scribe. Obviously, you have Jonathan Hinterleiter now. He was the Grand Scribe, and then he went to the JMC, which is the Vice President of Membership Development for everyone else. And then obviously now he's GM and our president. So it's a big stepping stone and a good start to be the Grand Scribe.
Do you think you would have had the confidence to have done it and started pursuing that type of leadership if it wasn't for Brandon Akers mentioning that? Because I think in the things where I'm involved in as a leader, it's typically someone who puts it in my ear a little bit early about it, and then from there it kind of gets in my head, well, someone believes that I can do this, so maybe I will do it. Do you think you would have had that if Akers didn't say that?
Yeah, I feel like I still would have wanted to, become a leader and do a lot in this fraternity. I've always been a little bit of a leader, and I've always believed in myself and doing everything that comes to be from a leader. So it just probably wouldn't have been as early of a commitment or a push to do more. It basically started all my pledge process or my new member process.
Yeah. Well, speaking of new members, I actually want to talk about that and kind of a change of gears a little bit, because this was a special week for our new members. One of the things that happens in our fraternity, and in I'd say almost every other fraternity, is a big little program where you are matched with someone who would have been in a class, like a new member class prior to yours, who's actively a brother, as you're still a new member, going through the ranks. You match yourself with that person, and they kind of have this sort of a mentor/mentee role. So this past week, this was a night where our new members were able to get matched with their bigs. And it's one of the deals where you also have the quote-unquote family tree going on. So we were able to get all the photos with the brothers and the new members, with their new people. So I want to talk to you about that. So tell us about Big Littles from your standpoint. Who's your big? Who are your littles? And just talk about who they are and just tell us about them.
Yeah, so my big is Ethan Cernicki. He just graduated last semester. He wasn't intentionally supposed to be my little off the bat, but then we went on a spring break trip together with a few other guys from the fraternity, and we just clicked more there, and then the rest is history. And then throughout our rush process and everything, I got close with my little from last semester is Michael Luzzi. Great guy. He's basically me, but in a different body. He's one of the nicest, most well-built guys I've ever met.
Unbelievably social, yeah.
And then I just recently got another little, Matthew Hoy. He's the cousin of one of our alumni, and he's literally the other half of me. My two personalities are my two littles, and I think that is really great for me. I got lucky with that, and I think I'm looking more to get closer with both of them.
How about well, now, so you mentioned Michael Luzzi. Well, Michael's now going to have a little as well, so that would be Kenny Griffin, one of our new members who's also coming into the picture. So really, you have a very complete family tree at this moment, and with a few semesters to go, I think with that math, you might be able, it could be possible before you graduate in May of 26 to know who your great grand little would be. I think, 3 grades it would be if I'm doing the math correctly in my head. But obviously it's great to be able to have that mentorship. I can speak on behalf of where I'm at with my big. Unfortunately, I missed a night in which everybody was able to find out about that process because I was away that week. But nonetheless, I eventually learned that who it was, and that would have been Jack. That's Jack Burkhart. And I could tell you this for sure. Jack Burkhart is an incredible person, to have as a big. I've enjoyed getting to know him in that relationship, and he's done a lot for me as far as going out of his way to support, especially right after he became my big. I remember the first thing he said to me was, and I agree with this sentiment. He said, I'm taking you out to dinner. It's the first thing we're going to do. And he values that more than anything else, because obviously it's commonplace regarding getting T-shirts and things like that within your family line for the big and the little to do that together. But he valued actually spending some quality time with me, and then we've hung out over the summer even. So Burkhart lives 2 hours away. I was down here this summer as I was working my internship in Harrisburg, and Burkhart had come down a couple times to see not only me but to also see the people who would have been living down here. So it's extremely important to me. It's one of my favorite parts, I would say, about Kappa Sigma, and how seriously we take that and appreciate what that means for our chapters. So I think it's one of the best parts about it. But we're going to bring back in Andrew here with some more questions for sure.
Thank you, Luke. So before I get to the questions, I do want to kind of just give my perspective on like bigs and littles. So I kind of had a different path as Michael. I only wanted one guy. Shout out Jake Corwell. Him and I just really clicked. We both really had love for sports and just are pretty down to earth people. So we clicked there. And then see, my line's a little bit bigger than everyone else. Everyone likes to claim that I like to just get everyone in my fam line. Maybe it's true, maybe it's not. That's a story for another day. But so my two littles are Wayne Laws and DJ Jackson. Two exceptional littles, two great people. But I have completely different relationships with both of them. They're like my children. I care for both of them very much. Wayne was my roommate last year, so I got to really. I met Wayne my freshman year, and then he went away to basic training, so he took a semester off. But we really got to click and get to know each other, which was awesome. But I really value my relationship with them. I mean, Wayne and I will sit and watch football or just talk. DJ, I really am that mentor to him. He'll ask a lot of questions, and I'm there to answer them. Yes, honestly, do both of them drive me nuts sometimes? And I mean nuts! Yes, they do, but I love them both. But Wayne also has two littles. He has Tanner Karras and one of our new members, Drew Williams. And then Tanner, obviously, got a little this semester with Rowan Smith. Both of those new members are exceptional. I love them both dearly. I see great things for them once they become brothers in this organization. Honestly, I could see two future leaders right there. But I couldn't be happier to have them. And man, I'm really on that unk status. I'm a great grand big. Big deal. But you never know. I'm just incredibly grateful for my fam line, and for years to come, for me to be their mentor. But kind of shifting gears. What's your favorite color?
Either navy blue or black.
That's lies. His favorite colors are light blue for Jersey Mike's, or red for Target. This guy loves to work. But how do you balance that? How do you balance work and school? What's the best way? Let's say someone wants to work. Give some advice on how you do it.
Yeah, so I only had one job over the summer, and then eventually the Jersey Mike's was opening up, and I was like, all right, something a little bit closer than Target. It's a 15-mile drive, so I just wanted something closer, for the weekend. So I applied, I got the job, and here I am with two jobs over the summer, which is great, more money, more opportunity. And then come the school year, here I am thinking, oh, what am I supposed to do now? I don't want to quit either of the jobs. I just started them, and I enjoy both of them. So Target, I make my availability Sunday through Thursday, and that is only because we have intramurals throughout the week. So whenever we have a game, I do take off. It's because I still want to be involved on campus and want to do that little extracurricular activities. Because I've been playing intramurals since I was a first semester freshman. So that's one of my favorite things to do here is the intramurals. And then Jersey Mike's, my manager, he's very flexible. I only work on Fridays and Saturdays there, unless I have something to do on the weekends if I'm going home, going fall break or something like that. So I do take off a lot when I do have stuff that I need to go to ahead of time. That we plan a lot of our stuff out, way in advance, so I can take off early. No one has any problem with me taking off. They know my involvement in the school. So that's not a hard thing to do. Now, other managers might not be as easy. It just depends on who you go to. But obviously, I still get my schoolwork done. I either do that, during the day. I have a big gap between classes on Mondays and Wednesdays, and I finish really early on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So I have that time to do work then. And if I end up not doing it, I do like to stay up a little late, so I can just do it when I get home.
Yeah, I mean, being involved in many places as well, I can say the same thing where it's trying to balance that out it is very difficult, but also what goes a long way for me is when people understand the complexities of my schedule, and that's where you said like you're able to take off work on these specific events, like on these specific days to attend these specific events, like such as the intramurals, and you said like your manager is very flexible with that, and I admire that greatly because all the different things I do, I work as a tutor at the Learning Center here. I'm involved in all 4 student media groups in some capacity. I have 2 different majors that I must allocate my time to both directions. Obviously taking classes, not to mention the fraternity that I'm involved in, and then all the other things that I have going on. It is stressful, it is intense, and I can tell you for a fact, there are not 2 days that are the same for me on this campus. Every day's got something different in store on my schedule. But again, having the support from everybody is essential to that, and I appreciate every organization I'm a part of for understanding it because, yeah, I have to balance my priorities a lot of different times, and sometimes things have to get sacrificed for that. But I've never been pressured in any sense from anybody who said, well, you signed up for this. This is what you should be involved. This is how you should be involved, and this is the commitment you need to show. And you're not, And if other things get in the way, no one has ever told me in any organization about relenting other commitments for their sake. And I think that I have great respect for everybody who's sympathetic to it because all the things I'm involved in them for different reasons that are very important to fulfilling my college experience and then ultimately the human experience. But with that said, we're going to take a quick little break. We'll be back on the other side with more conversation with Michael Burrows, the Grand Scribe of Kappa Sigma. Again, you're listening to Greek Speak on WSYC 88.7 FM for engaging conversations about all things Greek life with Luke Rainey, Andrew Mercier, and each week, always a special guest.
And welcome back. Again, Greek Speak 88.7 FM from Shippensburg, Pennsylvania. I'm Andrew Mercier. And today our special guest is Michael Burrows, the Grand Scribe of the Kappa Sigma fraternity. So, I did kind of hint at it earlier that Michael and I we go way back. Long time. But, how has that soothed your process, kind of your transition from high school to college? Because I know from my personal experience, it really made my transition a lot better because, you are my best friend. We really help each other in aspects of social aspects, like you and I go talk to people. Then we meet friends from there. All that kind of jazz. But, what is how have I helped in your college experience? Because, as I said, you've definitely helped mine a ton.
Yeah, so obviously we knew we were coming to college together for a while. And basically when we came to college together, we both make friends together and we do it very well. We both can talk, we both can meet a lot of people, and basically whenever we came to school, especially from orientation, since we were in different groups, the separate people that I met and the separate people that he met, we basically all connected together. I know a lot of people here. A lot of people like to get on me because I know probably half the school. But basically,
Everybody.
the transition period, especially with him, was pretty smooth, I would say. And then obviously everything else besides, the social aspect went fairly smoothly as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's a huge, huge change. I mean, going from living at your house with your parents for 18 years to now being in a whole new, different environment, especially you and I, who we're from Maryland, so we're in a whole different state. So, like, that's completely different. And I remember, like, first starting to meet people, and they're like, yeah, I'm from Lancaster. And I was like, what is that? I thought it was Lancaster. But, there was all these different, like, little cities that people were talking about. And I'm like, what is that? Like, I don't know what you're talking about. And I kind of felt left out because people would talk about these places and I didn't know what they were talking about. But, I don't know. I mean, that was definitely my number one fear coming to college. Before we decided to, we ended up both came here for some remarkable programs. But that was my number one fear of, like, going to college and not knowing anyone. Because, I mean, in high school, I knew everyone. And, like, I had a lot of friends. So, like, I was scared going. But you definitely made the process a lot better. But, I mean, one thing that I do want to share about you, and you can kind of share your backstory on why this is so. But I would say you're very hardworking. You and I worked together at Martin's in Maryland, which is giant sister company. But you and I worked there, and we worked there together for 4 years. And I mean, you're one of the most hardworking people I've ever met. And, like, why do you have that trait? And, like, where did you learn it?
Yeah, well, my parents growing up did a lot for me, but they still taught me to, still be independent and, work hard and everything. I always like to prove that I can do it, I'm capable of doing it. So working that extra length really just, like, it makes me tell myself that, I can do it and I'm able to do it, which is one of my biggest things right there.
Yeah, I mean, literally, I think it was our senior year. I was at work, like, every day. I had nothing better to do. I mean, I was a little bit different. I had hurt my shoulder in high school and kind of just took away I played baseball my whole life, and then I hurt my shoulder and kind of just took the love away from the game because that happened in 2019, and then COVID happened. So then it was just a long period away from, like, structured baseball, and it really just kind of took my love away from the game. But what did you like to do outside of work, outside the fire department, outside of classes? Like, did you play any sports in high school? If so, what was your favorite sport that you played?
Yeah, I would say when I started working, I still did a good bit, and then eventually I just focused all on work. I knew I was coming to college. I knew I was going to need a lot of money, so I just focused on working, basically. But in high school, I did play on our soccer team, 2 years of JV, 2 years of varsity. We practiced basically every single day unless there was some sort of holiday. And then I also balanced out going to work after practice as well, even if that meant I would work late. So obviously, since I was in high school, I've been balancing sports and work and school, which has really helped me with this transition. And yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's very, very important because, I mean, as I was just saying, like, college is a whole different ball game. Like, you're not with your parents anymore. You're by yourself. Honestly, there's two options. You can sink or you can swim. Because, honestly, it's the first time that you really can just do whatever you want. I mean, it's your it's your option. It's your choice. If you want to go to class, go to class. If you don't, I mean, you're wasting money, but I mean, I recommend going to class, but, it's the first sense of freedom, and, like, it's a whole different ball game. And, like, I think you talking about these different foundations that you built in your life in high school have really prepared you for college. And kind of going off that, what things have you taken from high school, college, that can propel you into your career field? Because I mean, I've known you forever. You're going to be successful. You know, when you put your mind to something, you don't stop until you get there. You're going to be successful, and I couldn't be any more proud of you for that. But, like, what have you taken from college, high school, that is going to help you in the professional world?
Okay, so doing stuff to prepare for my career really helps, especially I did join the fire department because obviously I knew I wanted to be in the medical field, so a big thing there would be the EMT side of the fire department. I really pushed our instructor to do a little bit more with the EMT side so I could get a little bit more experience. And then especially like in high school, there are certain classes that you needed to take and there are some extracurriculars you could take. And I really advised my counselor to get me to more of the science classes that I necessarily didn't need to graduate, but that I wanted to prepare myself before coming here.
And I'll just say real quick to kind of jump back to what Andrew was saying earlier. As the scholarship chair of our fraternity, yes, go to class, please, and thank you. That should be pretty standard. But the preparation for high school is from high school to college is certainly interesting. What I can say is this: I don't know if anyone's quite like me as far as how much I've evolved since I first came here. When I was in high school, I was a totally different person than the person I was first semester freshman year, and then even the second semester became a different person. Third semester, fourth semester, finally I feel like I'm starting to kind of get into my comfort zone of I know who I am and what I'm about and how to manage that identity now that I'm halfway through that experience. But I mean, I'm sure you guys would have both seen this at the beginning of my new member process, that this, ever since the start of this year, I'd say I have changed quite precipitously. So I don't know if, I'm sure just from your experience, Michael, have you seen it, and how so? From me, at least.
Yeah, your process changed you a lot. You started coming around, a little bit before Rush, when you started coming around, wanting to be in this fraternity. And from when we went to Redemption Barbecue, so when you started the process, it was just a traumatic difference. And then obviously from being a new member till now, it's just been extraordinary. Rainey over here, he runs our social media, and I'm in charge of overlooking that. And I don't think I've looked at anything for the Instagram since he started this job, because he's just so good at it, and I don't have to worry with him unless I have a little bit of ideas that we haven't done in the past that I kind of want to get started. But that's it.
Well, it's hard to articulate to people who are outside of Greek life exactly how beneficial it is once you're in it, and it's something where it's like oftentimes it's the cliche. Oh, it's not just the social stuff. No, it's so much more to it. But what I can tell you is you find a purpose within the organization, something that can not only serve yourself but serve them, and you come up with ideas for it. I mean, the sky is virtually the limit. Because I really think that was the secret for me. Is I had the assignment for doing social media. It was something I knew I wanted to do from the very beginning, and I had a whole summer to kind of think about exactly how I could grow the position and the absolute most that I could do with it. So I think that was an essential part to my involvement. And anytime, if there is a new member, if there is a brother who is kind of telling me I just don't know if I'm really getting the most out of it, or sometimes I don't feel that connected, my answer is simple: just execute your involvements to the highest ability you can. And that's tough for everybody to do. Obviously, we all have different schedules, as I was talking about earlier, but the more involved you are towards the cause, the better it will be for you as far as your standing and your support and your love for the organization. So, and that's a good point for our new members, because obviously we're closing in. We've had a long new member education process, going back to the end of Rush Week. So we're getting closer and closer to the end for them. So it's obviously an exciting time of year for those guys once you get on the flip side of fall break. What are you looking for out of the new members in this closing stretch as they come home and then they're about to become brothers, and then once their chair assignments are given to them at the end of the semester?
Yeah, they've already done so much. They've been very, very involved, and I like what every one of them are doing. Rowing, getting our music to the next level. And especially a lot of them have, our roommates, what me, Drew, Wayne, and Cody came in as when we were rushing. Bringing that on-campus involvement a little bit more than we can off-campus. And I know we have a lot of members, so finding chairs for all of them is hard. So adding a few more chairs, making some committees, getting them in their best suited spot. And a lot of them are social, so getting them on the rush committee, getting more guys in here along with the social, a lot of the younger guys, knowing a lot of the younger sorority girls, and it just helps with becoming closer with all of our other organizations here on campus.
Right, yeah, that on-campus presence is certainly important. Obviously, for us, our responsibilities for that, I mean, unfortunately, there's not much we can do anymore because the both of you, Andrew and Michael, you're both living in the house. I'm living at College Park Apartments, so completely off campus, and a nice little tidbit of information just to share, for the record, one of our new members, Bryce Vaughn, we are currently in the works of trying to get him to be my roommate next year up in College Park. So that's a nice way to be able to get to know somebody through the fraternity that I think that this moment I can say with confidence that I would be able to trust him as someone that I could live with next year, because I'm quite picky when it comes to things like that. But yeah, no, I mean, I'd say as far as our new members, I mean, like you said, I mean, this has been an excellent group, and I would say in some ways they have outshined even our group in the spring, where there were 15 of us back then as well, and there's 15 of these guys now. But I really valued at the time that they spend at the house just to sit, hang out, and socialize, just anything extra that they do to prove that they want to be here. They want to be with us. They want to learn and grow from the organization, and I think our chapter has done an excellent job at encouraging them along the way. And we get them in, it's going to be quite impressive for sure. But one thing I want to talk about as well is they were able to organize their own fundraiser earlier this week. So I had a long week this past week. I was in California for a bit. Also had to handle the injury a little bit. Had some other side meetings, so it was a bit stressful. I didn't really get to see all what was going on with that fundraiser that new members put on. But talk a little bit about what they were able to do.
I was in class for their fundraiser, and then I had to go to work. But I think they all really enjoyed it. There were some of our brothers there as well participating, so it wasn't just our new members, which was great. They raised a lot of money, and they're going to do a little special activity. They will find out a little bit later, which is going to be really exciting, I think.
Yeah, and I mean, kind of just piggybacking on what Luke said, I couldn't be more proud of this group of people. I mean, honestly, I see all of them. They're all extremely dedicated and want to be here and want to be involved. And even the ones that aren't as involved are asking how they can get more involved and asking how they can be better. And I mean, I think it's the job of the brothers of helping them succeed. I mean, I'm just gonna say it. Rainey was like my protege here. I was the previous social media chair. I had a lot of fun with it. Kind of just started new. Our social media wasn't really taken serious in the past, so this was the first time that I was just playing around with it. I kind of had the same freedom as Rainey does now of I'm just gonna do whatever I want, post whatever I want. I have a very creative mind, but it's all it's up to the brothers to set them up for success. I mean, as soon as Rainey was a new member and going through his process, I was like, that's the next social media chair. I said, I don't care what happens. I said, that's the next chair. And I spoke it to all the brothers. I said, that's the next chair. I said, you see what I've done? Now he's going to take it to the next step. And I couldn't be more proud of you. And I'm so happy that I get to call you brother. But I do want to ask Mike. So obviously you have aspirations of running for president. You're currently the secretary. What have you done prior to that, chair experience? Obviously Rainey talked about how usually your first semester of becoming a brother, you're holding a chair, you're starting to build that sense of okay, you're responsible, you can do it. And it's a sense of okay, I like this chair, but I want more. But do you want to just talk about what your chairs were and What'd you learn from it?
Yeah, so when we wrote down our top 3 chairs that we wanted to do, obviously my number 1 was rush. I like to talk. I like to I'm really good at convincing people and like letting them know what we're about. So my biggest chair was rush chair. My other chair was fundraising. I was underneath of JJ Senabine. And I did a little bit of philanthropy with that as well. They're both pretty similar. You're just raising money for different organizations. And that taught me a lot of making sure you're getting prepared with every little detail, because there's a lot that goes in the fundraising. And the first one that I did on my own didn't, have every little bit, and it could have went a little bit better if I did. So there was a lot to go into the fundraising aspect. And then my other chair was the Greater Cause chair. That's our community service chair. Jonathan Hinterleiter, our GM now, and he was our scribe at the time. He really wanted to, extend our community service and make it a chair, because we never had that in the past. So I was all hands-on and wanting to do that position. Those are my initial 3. I was also unofficially the chef chair, so whenever we have events, I'll do a lot of the cooking. So Friendsgiving, I'll cook a whole meal with a little bit of help from some other brothers that want to help. And then I definitely did a lot more stuff on the side. It's a little bit too much to remember right off my head, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we said, where it's like as the more and more brothers were accumulating, the more and more chair positions we're going to have to fill. So I think whenever we do our weekly chair reports at our meetings, I think these meetings might become a little lengthy, and that's not a terrible problem to have, though, considering the reason why that's happening. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. Obviously, my prayer is to continue doing the social media for as long as I can, because again, I've really found a passion for it. And I think I've done a good job with it so far. So that's obviously my first hope more than anything, and obviously that ties into a lot of other things to the organization, because, and I'm sure Andrew knows this, if you're doing social media, you have to be cognizant of everything that's going on within the chapter, because a lot of the events we do, if not all of them, have some sort of newsworthy component, or there's something that is prudent for the social media interest, and you have to know when things are going on, have to be able to figure out how to get pictures, when pictures can get taken, things of that nature, all sorts of logistical challenges with transferring files, because I got to say it publicly, because it was transferring the photos, because we use, like I said, we use that high quality camera this past weekend, transferring those photos from the camera to the computer, back to my phone to run the post, because in order for Instagram, in order to do a 20 picture carousel, I think you have to do it on your phone, so I couldn't do it off a desktop. It was the most painful, excruciating 2-3 hours of my life trying to figure out how to do it. I ran out of storage as I was downloading the pictures. It was chaotic, but it's worth it. It's worth going through that, because for a special event, we wanted a high quality camera, so I made sure it happened, and I made sure, for the benefit of all the brothers, they were able to get these photos. So it's something that, let's just say, for something happens with the shuffle of the cards where I'm no longer a social media chair at any point, I'm going to have a lot of high expectations for whoever takes over in that transition process afterward. But nonetheless, if I were to lose that position, I'm sure it would be lost for good reason, because it'd be going to someone who could thrive even more, and I think what I've already been able to thrive at. So, yeah, I mean, the chair position is a great way for anybody to prove themselves. So for any of the new members, if you're a new member in any organization and they assign you a chair position, that's where your bread's going to get buttered within the chapter, I think, more than anywhere else. But I think we're wrapping it up here at this point, so the hour's kind of drawing towards a close. But we thank all of you for listening, as always, to this episode of Greek Speak, and engaging conversations about all things Greek life with Luke Rainey, Andrew Mercier, and then this week we had Michael Burrows in the studio. So, Michael, we thank you, of course, and again, learned a lot from you. And next week we will be hoping to have another guest come in and continue on the conversation to talk about Greek life even more. So, again, we thank you for listening. Until next week, we will see you all later.